This is Lewis Ritson and you're watching Sport Icons.
Right, so Robbie Davies Jr. took on very tough Mexican fighter in Gabriel Valenzuela. Now, on paper before the fight, you look at their resumes, very similar record, being that they both had 2 losses. But I think the Mexican Valenzuela has had, 2, maybe 3 fights more. So very similar. And it was a very good fight. I enjoyed it a lot. Don't get me wrong, there were times where both of these fighters were fighting very dirty. In fact, the referee got quite vocal on quite a few occasions. Anyway, is what it is. I thought it was a very good fight. Robbie Davies Jr., he started the first couple of rounds in the orthodox position. Round number 3, got caught with a big punch. He goes down in round number 3. Makes it up, seems okay, that's for sure. But at the end of the round, Dominic Kingle, and he's such a motivator, he really is. I do like Dominic Kingle. But he was telling Robbie Davies Jr., right, you need to start listening to me. You need to do what it is that I'm telling you to do. Now you're going to be fighting southpaw. So Robbie Davies Jr. fought southpaw for the remainder of the fight. And in round 4 and 5, I thought, you know what? His tactics worked. I thought Robbie Davies Jr. was using a jab. He was moving from side to side very comfortably. But then from round 6, pretty much onwards, it's a 10-round fight. For some reason, Robbie Davies Jr. didn't look comfortable fighting in southpaw. You could see he had very little to no power in the left hand. His jab, of course, was quite good. But whenever he threw the left, and obviously from a southpaw position, rather than go to the side or duck down, he kept walking back in a straight line and was getting countered. And he was looking very uncomfortable. Valenzuela, massive pressure fighter, that's for sure. And Robbie Davies Jr., just seemed that his punch resistance weren't quite there. And in fact, Robbie Davies Jr. got hurt. Well, it looked like he got hurt on quite a few occasions outside of that knockdown. And certainly in the final round, number 10, I thought Valenzuela was getting him out of there, because he did certainly hurt Robbie Davies Jr. I'm not exactly sure what punch it was, but either way. Listen, it's a very good fight. I enjoyed it. But you know what? The Mexican comes over to the UK, like it's happened before here in lockdown, and spoils the party for our British fighters. But I think Valenzuela, it's a fair decision. I can't really argue with that decision too much. I wouldn't have argued with a draw either, from one perspective, because I did think Robbie Davies Jr., in my opinion, he won the first couple of rounds, but of course that round number 3 kind of threw those 2 rounds out the window, so pretty even up to that point. But then I thought that Robbie Davies Jr., he definitely won the next 2 rounds, but then there was a couple of swing rounds and whatever else. So I wouldn't have complained at a draw too much, but I do think if I had to pick a winner, Valenzuela is probably the right man to get that decision, that's for sure. So anyway, congratulations to Gabriel Valenzuela on his victory over Robbie Davies Jr. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all in the next video.